ghost was still in left field. All of a sudden, people were comparing him to Williams, and he hated that.
He was a larger-than-life guy, both physically and mentally, really.
He reminded me of myself. He's wound up like a clock. He's ready to go. And your hands are here.
Yaz going to first base was a symbolic as well as an actual demotion.
People say, well, that's where old ball players go to die.
I think he was insulted because he believed that he could still play left field better than anybody.
I remember going up to him and saying, you know, you haven't played very much left field this year. Now, how's it going to be getting back in there? And he didn't even blink an eye. He said, I can play left field in my sleep.
He was so proud of his defensive efforts in that series. He's talked about it several times.
And I remember asking Reggie Jackson about the play. He said there are only two people that could have made that play on me, Carl Yastrzemski and God.
I've never seen a guy beat a club with his glove, especially an outfielder like he did.
I can hear his tremendous sound of the bat hitting his back when he'd take a full swing, and then the grunt that followed it.
He was a stand-up guy. And I mean, he was there for you, but in his very coiled way.
He's a very hard, tough man to get to know.
That he didn't care about.
Can you imagine a kid, an American kid, great ball player, gives up a baseball career because he was afraid that if he didn't make it, he would lose his farm?
He was so strong, even in spring training. His bat was so much quicker.
Pitches that I used to throw him on the inside part of the plate that maybe he'd squirt out the left field, all of a sudden he's pulling them down the line.
The amazing thing was the disbelief that they kept pitching to him, almost as they didn't believe that he was doing what he was doing.
You couldn't have a better base runner, you couldn't have a better thrower, you couldn't have a better fielder, hitter. You had the perfect ball player at that particular time.
Over the last 12 games of the season, Yastrzemski went 23 for 44 with 5 home runs and 18 RBIs.
Drive to right field. This is deep, and this ball is gone. A home run for Yastrzemski.
October 1975. Reggie Jackson, Mr. October himself, thought he could take second base. The throw came from left field, and Jackson was out by a mile. After the game, reporters asked what happened. His answer became legendary. It was like being nailed by a throw from God. But this was not some young gunslinger in his prime. This was a 36-year-old man who had spent 15 seasons being compared to the greatest hitter who ever lived. What made players across generations speak of Carl Yastrzemski with such reverence? From replacing Ted Williams to achieving what no one would do for 45 years, this is the story they tell. Spring training, 1961. A 21-year-old stepped into Fenway Park, carrying a weight no bonus could compensate for. Carl Yastrzemski was replacing Ted Williams, the splendid splinter. Career average of .344, 521 home runs, the greatest hitter who ever lived. The Red Sox management made their intentions clear. They gave the kid number 8. Ted had worn number 9, not replacing, continuing. Ted Williams spent that spring as a batting coach, watching the young left fielder take his cuts. What he saw made him protective. Williams pulled Yastrzemski aside and delivered a warning that would echo for decades. Look, kid, don't ever, you understand me? Don't ever let anyone monkey with your swing. This was not just advice. Ted knew what came next. The comparisons, the expectations, the crushing burden of following greatness. He was giving Yastrzemski permission to be himself. But Boston was not patient. The rookie hit .266 his first year. The newspapers were brutal. He is no Ted Williams, they wrote. Every strikeout was measured against the memory of perfection. Every groundout was proof he did not belong. Yastrzemski hated the comparisons. Everyone was comparing him to Ted Williams, and he hated it. He had stepped out of his father's shadow on a potato farm in Long Island, only to find himself in another, much larger shadow at Fenway Park. What players did not know was what Yastrzemski was doing that winter, the work no one saw, the obsession that would change everything. The Boston Red Sox finished 9th place in 1966. Las Vegas gave them 100-to-1 odds of winning the pennant the following year. Nobody believed in them. Nobody, except a new manager named Dick Williams, and a left fielder who spent the winter of 1966 doing something revolutionary. Yastrzemski worked with Gene Bird, a Hungarian boxing coach who pioneered weight training for baseball players. While other players rested, Yaz was building strength that would carry an entire franchise. His teammate George Scott watched what happened next in disbelief. Years later, Scott would try to explain it. Yaz hit 44 homers that year, and 43 of them meant something big for the team. The numbers alone cannot capture what Yastrzemski did in 1967. He won the Triple Crown with a .326 average, 44 home runs, and 121 runs batted in. He led the league in 8 other categories. His wins above replacement was 12.5, the highest for any position player not named Babe Ruth in the modern era. But it was the final 2 weeks that became legend. With the pennant race tied and every at-bat carrying the weight of the season, Yastrzemski went 23 for 44, a .541 batting average, 5 home runs, 16 runs batted in. It seemed like every time we needed a big play, Scott said, the man stepped up and got it done. Dick Williams, the manager who transformed the team, later wrote about that season. He got rid of all the individuality, Yastrzemski explained, made us into a team, gave us an incentive, and made us want to win. The MVP vote was 19 of 20 first-place ballots. One writer chose Cesar Tovar, a light-hitting infielder. Nobody ever explained why. The Red Sox lost the World Series in 7 games to the Cardinals, but Yastrzemski hit 400 with 3 home runs. Bob Gibson was simply too good. Players understood. No shame losing to greatness. By 1978, Yastrzemski was 39 years old. His body was breaking down. His batting average had fallen to .277. But Toronto pitcher Tom Murphy saw something the statistics could not measure. The wonderful thing about Yaz is that he is 39 going on 12, Murphy said. And forget statistics. Most pitchers will tell you that Carl is still the greatest clutch hitter in the league. The postseason numbers proved it. Yastrzemski batted .369 in 17 playoff games. After going 0 for 4 in his first playoff game, he reached base safely in his final 16 postseason games. His approach was methodical. "I am a think hitter," he said. He studied pitcher patterns and tailored his swing accordingly. October 2nd, 1978, 1-game playoff against the Yankees. Yastrzemski faced Ron Guidry, who had gone 25-3 with a 1.74 earned run average. Yaz drove an inside fastball over the right field wall. He had been expecting the pitch. But the game ended with Yastrzemski popping up weakly to third base in the 9th inning. 33,000 fans stood in silence as he trudged back to the dugout. Ted Williams immediately came to console him. Even legends fail, but they fail reaching for greatness. Yastrzemski once said something that made pitchers shake their heads. "I could play left field in Fenway in my sleep." It was not arrogance, it was truth. The Green Monster, 37 feet of wall with angles that confused veteran outfielders. Yastrzemski knew every carom, every bounce. He worked it into his game so well that when balls sailed over the wall, he would stand ready as if to catch them. 7 consecutive Gold Glove awards. He led the American League in outfield assists 7 times. No other player in history did it more than 5 times. That record still stands. Detroit Hall of Famer Al Kaline said it simply, "Carl Yastrzemski was the best all-around player. He could run, throw, and hit. He was a tremendous athlete." October 1975, American League Championship Series. Reggie Jackson hit a line drive to left field and rounded first base aggressively, thinking he could take second on a 36-year-old's arm. Yastrzemski's throw was a frozen rope, perfect strike. Jackson was out by a significant margin. After the game, reporters asked, "What happened?" That was when Reggie said it felt like being nailed by a throw from God. Years later, when asked about career highlights, Yastrzemski did not mention home runs. He remembered defensive plays. The throw to get Bob Allison in 1967, cutting off Reggie Jackson in 1975. Great hitters win games with their bats. Complete players win them with everything else. Yastrzemski once revealed something that explained everything. I loved the game. I loved the competition. But I never had any fun. I never enjoyed it. All hard work, all the time. 23 years playing a game he loved but could not enjoy. I think about baseball when I wake up in the morning, he said. I think about it all day and I dream about it at night. The only time I don't think about it is when I am playing it. Boston columnist Mike Barnacle understood what others missed. He never had the power of a Jackson or a Schmidt. He never had the speed of a Clemente. He approached the game the way a carpenter frames a house. His foundation was desire. The walls were made of intensity. The roof was nailed down with heart. Game 1 of the 1967 World Series. Yastrzemski went 0 for 4 against Bob Gibson. Most players would go home defeated. Yaz went straight to the batting cage for extra practice. He wanted to be perfect and was willing to work many hours a day. In 1977, at age 38, he played 150 games without making a single fielding error. It burned him that his teammates could not match that standard. The obsession started young. In the minor leagues, his father forced him to move to a one-man apartment. No distractions allowed. Greatness has a father. For Yastrzemski, it was pressure and pain. Yastrzemski once said of Mickey Mantle, "If that guy were healthy, he would hit 80 home runs." But there was a deeper moment that revealed how players saw each other. Late in Mantle's career, Yastrzemski watched from the outfield as the Yankee legend swung through pain. I see him swing sometimes, and even from the outfield, you can see the legs buckle and the way he winces in pain. I wince too, because it is like seeing your kid in pain. That is the way all ball players feel about Mantle. July 1963. Yastrzemski walked into the Cleveland locker room for his first All-Star game. The first player I saw was Al Kaline. I looked across the room and there was Brooks Robinson and Elston Howard. I was just a 23-year-old kid. I was in awe. He played alongside Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, Frank Robinson. All Hall of Famers. Yastrzemski outlasted nearly all of them. When he reached 3,000 hits and 400 home runs, he said something that defined his career. Not Williams, not Gehrig, not DiMaggio did that. There were Cadillacs, and I am a Chevrolet. He knew he was not the most talented, but he achieved what more talented players could not. In 1958, the New York Yankees tried to sign teenage Carl Yastrzemski. They offered $40,000. His father and Carl visited Yankee Stadium for a workout. The experience left them insulted. Carl had to dress with the bat boys instead of the players. His father could not get into the stadium without a special pass. They walked away. Boston offered $100,000 and respect. His teammates would later call him Cash because of that bonus. February 1971. Yastrzemski signed a contract for $500,000 over 3 years. It was the largest contract in baseball history at that time. 5 years later, free agency would change everything. Players started leaving for bigger money. Yastrzemski stayed. 3,308 games played, second all-time behind only Pete Rose. The most games for a single franchise in baseball history. Red Sox all-time leader in runs batted in, runs, hits, singles, doubles, total bases, and games played. But he never won a World Series. Lost in 7 games to the Cardinals in 1967. Lost in 7 games to the Reds in 1975, one of the greatest fall classics ever played. Lost the 1-game playoff to the Yankees in 1978 on Bucky Dent's home run. "I have not got too many cracks left at this thing," he said at age 38, feeling time running out. I came to love Fenway, Yastrzemski explained years later. It was a place that rejuvenated me after a road trip. The fans right on top of you, the nutty angles, and the wall. That was my baby. The left field wall, the green monster. His final season came in 1983, age 43. He still hit 10 home runs. Only 2 players in history hit double-digit home runs at age 43 or older. The other was Carlton Fisk. Loyalty has a cost. No championship ring. But it also has value. One fan base, one legacy, forever. Reggie Jackson called it a throw from God. But now we understand what made it possible. Not divine talent, divine work ethic. Carl Yastrzemski loved competition but had no fun. He was overshadowed by Ted Williams, but became a legend himself. He lacked the natural gifts of Mantle and Mays, but achieved what they could not. He never won a championship, but remains forever a champion in Boston. When players were asked about Carl Yastrzemski, they did not talk about his natural ability. Tom Murphy talked about his clutch gene. George Scott talked about his timing. Al Kaline talked about his versatility. Mike Barnacle talked about his heart. Ted Williams protected his swing. Reggie Jackson felt the arm of God. But Yastrzemski himself gave the truest answer. They were Cadillacs, and I am a Chevrolet. In 1989, he was elected to the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, with 94.63% of the vote, the highest ever for a left fielder at that time. 25,000 fans came to Cooperstown. Ted Williams sat on stage with fellow Hall of Famers. The shadow had become the light. You do not need to be the most talented to be the most respected. You just need to refuse to quit. For 23 years, every single day, until the throw looks like it came from God. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear that greatness is built, not born. Comment below with your favorite Yastrzemski moment, and subscribe for more stories about the players who changed the game.